Hello, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. We have a lot of content for you today. Want to hold ample time at the end for questions and discussion. I hope you're all here for the Black Neighborhoods Matter session. We'll be talking about vacant land and its relationship to racial and social justice. If we could start by everyone, if you feel comfortable sharing your name, pronouns into the chat. We want to know who's here with us. If you're also representing an organization, please let us know. If you want to share which neighborhood you're from, or if you're from a different city, also include that. So a quick rundown of today's session. We'll start with some introductions from the Grounded Strategies team, talk a little bit in depth about what Grounded does and who we are, and then share a status update on the state of vacant land in Pittsburgh. We'll go through a couple maps to talk about mapping vacancy and inequity, share one of Grounded's approaches to combating vacant land injustice, and then share a policy platform for improving the condition of vacant land and a call to action. And then, as I said, we'll save some time at the end for conversation and questions. And just to note, we were unable to get closed captioning to work today, but if people want us to share our slides with the speaker notes, I'd be happy to do that. If you could send me an email, it's just my name, Anna, at groundedpgh.org, and I will share those with anyone. Also, just watch the chat feature. That's what we'll be sharing a lot of links to the things that we're referencing. So if you want to explore those pages in more depth, just keep an eye on that and we'll try to keep that flowing as we're going along. Sorry. All right, and then I'll pass it over to Ariane on our team to introduce herself.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ariane Ford. I'm the Executive Director at Grounded Strategies. Really excited to see all of you here today with us. Just a little bit about me. I am from Maryland, Silver Spring, DC area. Moved to Pittsburgh about 6 years ago. My background is in city planning, and I'm here as a really heartfelt advocate for this work as related to land use and data. And so please excuse me if I nerd out a little bit later, but I'm really excited to discuss this really important topic with you all today. Ja?
Ja, you're really quiet right now.
Okay. Is this better?
A little bit louder.
How about now?
That's better.
Okay. My name is Ja Watson, pronouns she, they, policy coordinator for Grounded Strategies. Originally from Cleveland, Ohio, I transitioned to Pittsburgh in 2019 as a part of the Pulse Pittsburgh program, serving with Grounded Strategies, and became a full-time member in late August of 2020.
Go ahead, Khadija.
Hello and good morning. I am Khadijah Bay. I have been a resident of Homewood for a little over 15 years, and I brought a beautiful home in 2005. My home is next to two vacant lots, one belonging to the city and the other to an older man who I believe is deceased. After seeing that these lots were not being taken care of, naturally, I knew that I would maintain them because they're next to my home and in my community.
And Khadija, I'm gonna, sorry to interrupt you. I'll pause you there because we'll get into more depth about community care in a couple slides later.
Oh, so, okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Khadija is one of our community care stewards, and that's one of the programs we'll be honing on in later in our presentation. And my name is Anna Archer. I am the policy director at Grounded. I use she, her pronouns. And I kind of bring a perspective of public policy and environmental conservation, and have just really enjoyed getting work for Grounded for the last 4 years and exploring how we can improve vacant land across the county. I wanted to provide just some quick definitions for some of the terms that you'll hear us use throughout our session. The first is lot or parcel. We'll use these terms sort of interchangeably, and we're just referring to a tract or plot of land. Next is vacancy or vacant, and that means that it's just lacking formal ownership or legal ownership. And when we put those together, the topic that we'll be talking about is vacant lots or vacant land, and that's a neglected parcel of property that does not have a structure on it. Just for clarity, Grounded does not deal with vacant or abandoned buildings. So we have lots of wonderful partners that do that work, and we'd be happy to sort of refer people if that's something that you're more interested in. When we use the term steward, we're talking about a community member that tends to vacant land. And then greening strategies means a process of transforming vacant lots into an integrated network of well-maintained green spaces. And that can look like parklets or meadows, just an intentional use, higher use for vacant spots. And it is our hope today that people take away a new understanding and perspective about vacant land, one that's not synonymous with emptiness, but rather filled with a rich history, value, investment of the people that live there. Pass it off to Ariane.
Awesome. So I'm just going to take us through a little bit about our organization before we dive too heavily into the topic area of racist land use policies and mapping and the connection between those. Grounded is a nearly 14-year-old environmental justice nonprofit based in Pittsburgh. We are an organization that was founded on the idea that, like Anna said, vacant lots aren't just empty spaces, but rather hosts and hosts of opportunities if you are able to engage community members in the creation and the realization of those opportunities. And so over the past 14 years, we've worked on from a people and places, lot by lot, person by person scale to reclaim vacant lots, to understand the resources community members need in order to continue that ongoing stewardship, and especially to advocate for environmental justice, which means addressing and dealing with how this vacancy and divestment came to be, and making sure that, and the justice piece being making sure that in the future we course correct, recognize the mistakes we've made, and pay homage and honor into the legacy of people who have to live with these this divested land every day. And so our mission at Grounded is to improve the social, economic, and environmental health of distressed and transitional communities by building capacity to reclaim vacant and underutilized land. And we do that in a couple of different ways. We have our work kind of broken into 3 different sections: activation, stewardship, and resources as it's related to vacant land. Activation refers to the element of placemaking. How can we right now intervene, stabilize this lot? What are the resources needed? What are the technical assistance needs as far as design and or bureaucratic hurdles that need to be jumped? How can we provide that for the residents in these communities? Vacant land stewardship refers to, okay, so we've stabilized this lot. What's the long-term plan for this? What's the long-term support network around this land? What's the long-term land recycling goal for this lot? What's the long-term ownership plans for this space? And so our work is helping to tease that out at the city level, especially, and across the county, working with lots of different municipalities, building models like we will hear about community care today that allow for sustainable long-term stewardship with dignity, and as well as what are those systemic goals and those institutional changes that need to happen, and how can we ground truth those with the stories that we know exist and are capturing at the grassroots level. As far as vacant land resources, our goal is to collect all of this information, make it publicly available and accessible, as not just a resource for local folks, but also regional and national folks. We know that Pittsburgh is not the only Rust Belt city with a unique history of divestment. And so making sure lessons learned are lessons taken. We'll talk a little bit about one of our really great online resources, lotstolove.org, in a bit, which is a great example of how we're hoping to increase access to this really important process of wealth building through land reclamation. So here we have a couple of vacant lots. Anna, do you want to just kind of give an overview of the types of vacant lots you might see across Pittsburgh and how we come to find them and become engaged with them?
Yeah. So we want to just put a few examples out to start of the land that we are trying to address through our work. It takes many shapes and forms throughout the city and throughout the county. Here's an example of a block in Homewood. So it's a very big space. It's almost an entire city block that has, been the homes are raised, and it's just a lot to take care of and maintain. And these spaces are often kind of used as dumping grounds for litter and debris. Another form you might see is sort of this where you have the infrastructure of the home that once was left over. And so you're also grappling with some of those kind of tricky challenges of like, how do you repurpose this in a way of utilizing some of the things that remain, or restoring them in a way that's safe and healthy. And here's what we kind of refer to as the missing teeth. So they are vacant lots that are sandwiched between homes or other buildings. And those are sometimes some of the most tricky to deal with because they're, for a lot of reasons, not really developable in the future. And so they do make a lot of sense to remain as green space and become a nice side yard for someone.
Thanks. And so what is grounded plus vacant lots equal? These are two really great slides that illustrate that. We take a people and places approach. And so we're grounded in placemaking. That means using an inclusive community co-design process in decision-making around what is this lot to be, material resourcing, technical assistance, and compensation for time and effort put in to reclaim these spaces. We're really excited to have over 180 reclamation sites across the county that we are currently in the process of going back and reviewing to understand that impact that we had, and to equitably and sustainably sunset any lots or projects that are not being sustained in the long term, so that we are making sure we're not causing more harm to communities by creating projects that then become disinvested. And that's a part of our goal and vision and mission, to really stay in communities long term and be a long-term community partner. When it comes to grounded in people, Grounded believes that part of the process of land reclamation needs to include the uplifting and equipment of the local residents living and with this level of divestment every day. That includes design services, providing technical assistance. We have a suite of competencies ranging from landscape architecture, city planning, public policy, environmental justice, horticulture, but we bring that to bear for the desires of the community resident, and really ask them, how would you like to use us and our skills in order to create this space? That is our process of capacity building, and we're really very proud of it. I mentioned before one of the vacant lot resources, the Lots to Love suite. This one is an example of one of our most visible, tangible resources, the Pgh Mobile Toolbox, which is essentially a rolling shed of everything you would need to create a high impact workday, either restoration or construction of a vacant lot site. This resource is available for free to be reserved and hauled to community sites across the county during our season, when spring, summer, fall. And we're really excited because this resource is usually overutilized. Typically, it has a 52-day season, but We often work with folks to get it out more days during the week through personal requests, or sometimes folks who have the capacity to support financially. That's also something we're working with to increase the reach of this resource. So if you see it rolling around, Anna won't let me put googly eyes on the back of it, but I'm working on it. And then to coincide with that, we also have our website that has a live map of vacant lots in the city and county. You can go to there. I think Anna might drop it in the chat. You can click on a vacant lot and understand who owns it, the size of it, you know, what the parcel numbers are. Oftentimes when we receive questions or solicitations about, I really want to know what I can do about this vacant lot across the street. This is a tool that helps us immediately connect with resident and kind of understand the situation and start to make plans for intervention and reclamation. If you go to the website, this is something you'll see. And you'll notice that we have resources around selecting a lot, getting inspired, project examples, raising funds, because that is an important part of this process. Land stewardship isn't free, even though there are people doing it for free. And we think that that is a part of the environmental justice piece of land reclamation. We need to, people need to be compensated for their time, especially if they're not able to reap the benefits of ownership of land. And so I think Anna will talk a little bit about that as well later. And we didn't want to just show you bad, you know, terrible pictures. And so here's an example of a vacant lot transformation before and after. It just goes to show you what a single intervention can do as far as brightening up a block, changing the way people feel about a community when they drive through, changing the aesthetic, and also improving how individuals who live there view their own community. Our goal is to increase community pride and really have folks interact with these spaces as theirs. Some other examples, we do a lot with youth as well. You can see some of our green places, what we call them, naturalized play spaces built on underutilized or vacant land in communities that have a severe lack of any type of high quality green spaces. Cool.
Thank you, Ariane.
Yeah.
So Ariane just described what we do as an organization. I'm going to talk a little bit about why we do it and how we got here. So for those of you maybe that are joining us from outside the city or just want a refresher, Pittsburgh is the steel city, and how we got to today and the vacant land problems we have has its roots in Pittsburgh's steel and working class legacy. When the steel mills closed in the 1970s and 80s, it had ripple effects on Pittsburgh's economy. People lost their jobs and many were forced to move away. Houses were abandoned and fell into disrepair. And when those houses crumbled, or and sometimes they sort of caught on fire or had like other hazardous issues related to them, they were either demolished or disappeared, and that created the vacant lots popping up in droves around the city. I apologize if I have an echo. I can hear it on my end, but it sounds okay. Okay. So over time, some neighborhoods were rebuilt, but others were not. Because Pittsburgh was a red line city and segregated and still remains segregated today, the negative economic impacts were concentrated in Black neighborhoods. Today, there are over 27,000 vacant lots in the city and 60,000 across Allegheny County. Many vacant lots are in Black and underserved neighborhoods, and this is not a reflection of the residents in those communities, but rather a reflection of ongoing systemic economic inequity and disinvestment. So as I mentioned, there are 60,000 vacant lots throughout Allegheny County. Each of these vacant lots affects communities differently, but they're all tied to negative health, well-being, public safety, education, and environmental outcomes, and it's critical that we address them at a local level. This slide shows a map of Pittsburgh's vacant land. The purple and red dots on the map are vacant lots, and red are those that are owned by the city of Pittsburgh. It's kind of hard to see, but I'm gonna share some of the neighborhoods where you can see high concentrations of vacant land. This is not a comprehensive list, but you can kind of see in the Hill District, we see a lot of vacancy, Homewood, Larmer, in the hilltop neighborhoods of the South Side, and in pockets of the North Side. Because of the intense population decline that we experienced, it really had an effect on the footprint of the city. So our population has changed drastically over the last 50 years. By 45%, it's declined, but our footprint hasn't changed. So that sort of creates this spattering of vacancy across the city. But as I mentioned, concentrations in some neighborhoods more than others. And what that results in is that nearly a quarter of Pittsburgh's land is vacant or abandoned property. Much of it is concentrated in areas that have experienced decades of disinvestment and racist land use policies. I'm going to pass it over to John now.
Hello, y'all. So the section I'm going to talk about is how maps can display the inequalities of vacancy around the Pittsburgh area. So it's like a visual representation of how inequality impacts vacancy. So the issue of vacant land interconnects with all issues of justice, including racial and class inequality. On the right-hand side, we have our Vacant Land Bill of Rights, which is our vision for what vacant land looks like when the issue is dealt with holistically and with communities in mind. Thank you, Ariane, for the link. This map right here is from 1940s Pittsburgh redlining map. The color code on the left displays where the grade that each neighborhood was given. And if we were to overlay a current map of Pittsburgh, we would see that a lot of the hazardous or red areas are also areas where there's a lot of Black and brown and working class low income communities too. This is again another example of how city institutions also contribute to divisive mapping. So last year, February of 2020, Carnegie Mellon released this map for the first year students. And as you can see, a lot of the neighborhoods that are again primarily Black, low income, working class are omitted from the map. And in response, we had a community member from Swissvale, Miss Influence Heal on Twitter, who released this Hood Lives Matter map, which later became a t-shirt. So again, to display that like these areas of Pittsburgh also exist, also matter, are also present. Another example of divisive mapping, a neighborhood map released in a Visit Pittsburgh tour guide basically replicated the same thing, leaving out areas with Black Pittsburghers and again, low income working class Pittsburghers. Here we have an example from the Opportunity Atlas, which I'll drop a link for. The Opportunity Atlas did a study from 1978 to 1983, where they collected information from about 21 million Americans and traced that over time to display like what were the impacts of their neighborhoods on their lives over 30 years. And we can see that within, again, those same red line areas that household income, the neighborhood you live in, basically impacts the trajectory and your ability to attain income and certain levels of stability throughout life. We can see also that vacancy, again, is a factor in those same achievements and benchmarks. Next slide, please.
Oh, sorry.
I can tackle this too. So research shows that vacancy affects health outcomes, economic outcomes, and public safety. And next slide, and that when we green vacant land, it can promote a boost in community vitality, the well-being of like members, mental health, and also community wealth, and promote sort of a new vision for activities and things that can be achieved within that neighborhood and community.
And just to kind of put that into like that thought into a single sentence, we like to say like living next to a vacant lot shouldn't be the reason you score lower on health, you're lower on test scores, that you're sicker, that you will earn less over your lifetime. But in Pittsburgh, it is. It literally is. And that's another piece of why this isn't just, because like Anna said, this is not the people's fault. This is the result of decades of systemically racist policies and land use policies. And so what we really want folks to take away is like, this is all of our collective responsibility to address, particularly because so much of this vacant land that's concentrated in Black and Brown and communities that happen to be low income is owned by the city, is owned by an institution. And so we all have a role to play in holding our institutions accountable and protecting Black and Brown life.
Thanks, Ariane and Ja. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the systemic challenges related to Pittsburgh's portfolio of vacant land. And one of the biggest challenges when it comes to addressing vacant and abandoned properties is that you're up against a really complex governing and legal system. Dealing with vacant and abandoned properties is a massive challenge, one that many legacy cities are grappling with. But currently, really, we don't have anything financial or strategic to meet the scale of the issue. We'll share more at the end of our presentation some of the creative and innovative ways that other cities are addressing these challenges, but we did want to share a few specific examples of the systemic challenges we see here in Pittsburgh. So an ongoing concern with vacant land is that it always needs to be maintained. It's sort of one of the big question marks. How do we do this, especially at the scale that we have of vacant land? Vacant land will continually require upkeep in order to prevent it from becoming a burden to the neighbors who live surrounding it and to keep public costs low. However, it's currently massively underfunded in the city of Pittsburgh. The city allocates about $28 per year per vacant lot in their operating budget. This would not even come close to covering the cost of cutting the grass one time. This sends a message to communities with concentrated vacancy that the livability of their community is a very low priority. Another challenge related to accessing vacant land is related to some of the legal and liability constraints. Community groups often have a hard time accessing sites that they want to use for neighborhood green space projects, and even when they are granted access, usually ownership is not even an option. This creates a system where residents, namely Black people and people of color, are tending to cities' properties, but they are barred from the benefits of owning those properties. Finally, there's not a clear strategy when it comes to the practice of holding properties or for preventing the sale of properties to interested residents. In 2019, the city's controller's office did an audit on the real estate process of selling city-owned vacant properties, and they found that more than 50% of purchase requests were denied for reasons that were not disclosed. In our direct experience, these denials have affected residents that have been actively working to improve or at a minimum stabilize these properties because the city has not done so. I can drop the source in later when I'm not sharing my screen to this audit. It's very, very long, but if you want to dive more into some of the challenges that we face in our property real estate system, it does a good job covering it. So circling back to those three major systemic challenges we face here in Pittsburgh, we know that one, at a minimum, we have to increase maintenance funding and prioritize that we address this at a scale that can actually be felt at a neighborhood level. And two, there needs to be more opportunities to access and own vacant land. And three, the city needs to be transparent and articulate the strategy around property transfers or non-transfers. And then ultimately, we hope that this strategy will be guided and driven by community needs. So just to sum this up, we need the city to take care of the properties that it owns. If residents are taking care of city-owned vacant properties, they should have the opportunity to purchase that land. The city should have a clear definition as to what property it sits on and holds, and what property should come off of its rolls and be transferred and owned by residents and start producing property tax revenue for the city. If you want to go into sort of a lot more detail about this issue, a couple of years ago, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette put out a story called Pittsburgh's Property Lottery, and it walks you through the very daunting challenge of trying to purchase properties from the city. And it could take many, many years if you are successful, I should add.
And I might add that another thought colloquially, in those years, a child could be born, go through the prime years of their life and reach adulthood, and nothing has happened with that lot. And so this is a problem that people live with their entire lives, especially if they choose to remain in their communities, which is something that we hope and want people to do as far as building legacies and family wealth, which is, owning land in America is the #1 way to amass wealth and to transfer it intergenerationally. And so I think that that's a really good tenet to kind of hold in mind when we talk about why we need this system to work.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. As Ariane kind of mentioned at the beginning, we have lots of different interventions for ways that we address vacant land. Now I'm going to hone in on one of our programs that, it's just one of those interventions, but that is our community care program. And that's a program that Grounded coordinates in order to try to bring more joy, dignity, and recognition to the people who are taking care of vacant properties. So this is Grounded's community care program, which is a public stewardship program that improves vacant lots and neighborhood green spaces by equipping, celebrating, and compensating resident stewards. How this program works, it's an incentive-based program. So for every 1 hour that neighborhood residents invest in improving their community, they are given credits toward any safety net resource. So we're able to provide folks with utility payments, gift cards to grocery stores, transportation passes, anything that can help make this work a little bit easier, because we want to recognize that people are doing this in their free time. They're providing a basic neighborhood service, and that we need to fill that gap in order to start to compensate folks who've been doing this work for a long time. Through the community care program, Grounded trains and provides tools to interested individuals, or we sort of meet folks who have already been doing this work for a long time and just see how we can support the continuation of their efforts. We also try to broaden the skill set so that we can respond to a wider range of environmental challenges and land use challenges. And to date, the community care stewards across the city and actually county, because we have a cohort in Wilkinsburg, have completed more than 2,800 hours of basic care and maintenance to neighborhood green spaces. I'm going to try to play a quick video. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then I'll share again once I have this pulled up.
And while Anna does that, we do see the questions in the chat, and I am taking note. And during, small moments like this, and at the end, we will make sure we get to all of those.
Thank you. Oh, let's see. Bear with me.
One of the questions being, can you discuss the attitude of stopping gentrification as it relates to repurposing of vacant land? And that's one we will definitely answer. Go ahead, Anna.
Maybe. Here we go. Can everyone see this?
I'm out here because, first of all, I live here in this area, grew up in this area, and I feel that it's a good place to be. But it doesn't look pleasant when you see trash and overgrown leaves. So I do come out and I clean, and I want it to be nice, not only for myself when I walk out my house, but for the other residents who live around here. For years I've been asking for people's help, but as long as the good Lord wakes me up, I'm going to do what needs to be done. And I thank the good Lord for Grounded, GTAC, and the other community partners such in our group. And that's why I do what I do.
Mm-hmm. I think I need to go back into present mode. There we go. That was Miss Cookie, one of our community care stewards, who has also been a dedicated steward in Homewood. So in addition to the individual stewardship activities that the cohort works on, we also like to come together for monthly cleanups and complete group work days. Here's an example of one in Homewood where the stewards took an overgrown vacant lot and cleared it so that students who went to Westinghouse, is where it was near, could access, students and family could access the sidewalk. You can see the befores on the far left, the after, and on the far right is a picture of the stewards and all the debris that we pulled out of one of the lots. And here's just a couple pictures to illustrate more about that program. So it's a combination of individual activities happening on people's own time that they report and track, and then we redeem, as well as getting together, celebrating the work that we're doing, sharing lessons learned, and continuing our effort across the city. And now I'm excited to introduce you to Khadijah Bay. She has been a community care steward with us since the very beginning of our first cohort in Homewood. I'm going to pass it over to her to share a little bit more about her experience in that program and with vacancy in her neighborhood.
Hello again, and good morning. I am Khadijah Bay. I will say this another time. I have been a resident of Homewood for a little over 15 years, and I bought a beautiful home in 2005. My home is next to two vacant lots, one belonging to the city and the other to an older man who I believe is deceased. After seeing that these lots were not being taken care of, naturally, I knew that I would maintain them because they were next to my home and in my community. So almost 5 years ago, I was approached by GTech, which is now Grounded Strategies, and they explained to me what their vision for Homewood was: to restore vacant and neglected land. They told me about the community care stewardship program in which residents of Homewood become volunteers to help clean up trash, cut grass, pull weeds, plant flowers and trees, and restore the forgotten vacant lots in Homewood. It was a yes for me, since I have been doing it for years next to my home. But to be doing it on a bigger level with Grounded has really changed my perspective of my neighborhood. I can now see growth, life, beauty, and cleanliness when I walk out my door. I feel my neighborhood is a reflection of who I am, so I try to do my best as a community care steward. Along the way, I have met so many awesome people who are also stewards, and we became friends. And we go out together to beautify our community, and we are recognized with gift cards, utility help for the hours that we put in with Grounded. I would love to be able to purchase my side lot one day, to have a lovely green space for my family and my neighbors and the community. It is a blessing that I am able to be a part of the change to reclaim vacant land and make real improvements to the quality of open space. I pray that what I do becomes contagious and more people will join the community care stewardships and our mission to engage and empower and address environmental injustice through Grounded. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Khadijah, for sharing that. And I just wanted to point out, these are pictures on the far right of that beautiful green space is Khadijah's side yard that she takes care of. As she mentioned, Part of it is publicly owned, part of it is privately owned. That's another one of those big systemic challenges. We talk about like the legal implications. So, you know, we recognize that it's a very tricky to purchase property. There's a lot of things that go into it, but for us, we just want to see this process sped up, particularly for those who have been doing the work for so long. I pass it over to John now.
All right, so last year, Grounded launched our advocacy campaign, Gaining Ground, which is how we got here to our vacant land vision statement. So vacant land is not a monolithic issue. It intersects with all issues of justice, which we identified some umbrellas as health, restorative justice, people and culture, equity, stewardship, and economics. So this is again is a snapshot of like the one pager, which has all of these things conveniently put together. And our vacant land vision statement is that 1, we envision the intentional care of vacant lots. 2, we envision empowering communities with the agency to protect and preserve critical green space on vacant land. 3, we envision land serving the environmental, cultural, health, and restorative justice needs of communities. And 4, we envision affordable land for those systemically and historically denied ownership. 5, we envision land reparations and the restorative transformation of vacant land and marginalized communities. 6, we envision public accountability for institutions that contribute to land loss and disenfranchisement in marginalized communities. 7, we envision vacant land serving as a training ground for youth, those facing barriers to employment, and those actively interested in stewarding transitioned land. And 8, we envision the celebration and compensation of caregivers of vacant land. So ultimately, the vacant land vision is to center the people in our communities, to center their vision for, and to like center their vision, equip them with the tools, the training to be able to execute that, and to also make land accessible to those folk who have been caring for it. But again, get caught up in the systemic traps along the way that prevent them from gaining ownership and truly being able to reap the benefits of their labor. So our call to action here, you can click the link, learn more about our advocacy work, and sign up for our newsletter and identify other ways that you can support our work. Next steps. So here are also some visions for the future of vacant land that have come from the community, things that have been identified and that are pretty cool. So Healing Justice Works. We have Bugs, the Black Urban Gardeners and Farmers Society of Pittsburgh, and the African Healing Garden, which are 2 vacant land interventions which center the experiences of Black people and people of color, and which do a lot of work to ground that work in the cultural legacy of Black and African descendant people. Land reparations. So this is in, I believe, Seattle, the Africatown Land Trust, which was pushing a bid for like several $1 million to purchase a large plot of land, a large piece of land in the neighborhood to begin a land trust for Black folk and African descendant people as a means of reparations from the city. And then we have art residencies and installations. So within the Homewood neighborhood, we have the artist Alicia B. Wormsley, who completed the art project, The People Are the Light, which is also a book. This infographic or this photo on the right is sort of like one of the excerpts from the book, that just like these areas of Homewood, they aren't abandoned or vacant. They're filled with spirits. I see them everywhere. memories, the past, present, and the future. The hood is filled with light. That's why they want it. We have always kept them out of the dark. And so the vision is to transform the way vacant land is viewed and to identify the legacy and history that accompanies that space. The Abandoned Home Art Museums was a project that happened in Cleveland, in which the homes that were due to be like torn down were turned into art museums, which I was able to attend, and it was pretty dope. And so here we have in the YouTube a link where we're going to just watch a clip of one of the art installations that Alicia put together.
Can everyone see this? Okay. So we'll share the link so people can enjoy the rest of that too at the end of the session. And I just saw someone ask, we will definitely plan to share all the slides as well. I think too, we should mention this at the beginning, this whole presentation will be on YouTube after because it's being recorded.
And so, sorry, were you about to go, Anna?
No, go ahead.
Next steps within our strategy for gaining ground is to ground truth and create a land recycling strategy for all Pittsburgh city-owned vacant properties in priority districts by 2022.
So we want to pause now and start going through some of the questions. There's been a couple we've seen come through. I think Ariane, you've been organizing where we can start.
Yeah, and I guess I can moderate.
Stop screen sharing.
I love these questions, are really great, and I'm excited to dive in. And so the first one we had is, can we discuss the attitude of stop? Oh, where did I go? Hold on. Can we discuss the attitude of stop gentrification as it relates to repurposing vacant land? I can take this one. This is a really great question because, you know, it's not that folks want, like, no one wants divested land to stay divested, right? The goal is for that investment to transform community in an equitable way. And so, you know, gentrification, in that it causes displacement. It's the displacement of long-term residents in favor of external and ownership and investments, there's a way to completely avoid that, and it's through process and land use policy. So if you have a process by which deep community engagement happens and people are actively and able to influence decision making, you can avoid gentrification because people will probably not desire that and elements of that. And so what we're hoping for is a land recycling policy that puts residents, long-term residents in these communities at the forefront of decision making about how to go about reusing this land. And so if we skip that part or that piece of things, gentrification, I personally believe, is the result. But I don't think anyone's going to vote against their community being better. They just want to be there to experience that. And so that means the policies by which land use and revitalization, both of vacant land and structures, has to be driven by community voice. And because policy is enforceable and becomes a part of the institution, this is one way to rectify some of those institutional injustices that cause gentrification. And anyone else want to address that?
Well said.
Cool. And then Anna, if people keep asking questions, if you want to add them to our doc. The next question we had was, what would be the motivations of the city for blocking ownership for Black folks? Why aren't they more transparent about this? I've got thoughts, but Anna,
you can start if you want to.
Okay, cool. So there's a couple of reasons, and one I'm particularly interested in as city planner, and like as you study the history of our country, I like everyone to kind of think about the Wild West days when people were going out west for promises of gold and oil, and we have so many HBO shows about train speculation and like building the train station before the train comes through, and what that means. And so you can kind of think about land use, particularly of vacant land redevelopment, as a activity in development speculation, trying to think, if I just hold out, I could probably get a higher price or a better deal once the train comes through. And that directly connects to the question about the gentrification process, because in this situation, you are depending on gentrification to happen in order to build wealth for yourself. And so that is one reason some cities, not saying necessarily ours, but not saying that we don't have that issue. That's why there is an advantage to blocking transfer of ownership of land to certain groups, or to hold it within the system, which is and to be a part of that gatekeeping. And so that's what we're trying to democratize for sure. So that's one reason. And do you want to talk about some of the other reasons?
Yeah, and sorry, I'm kind of I'm multitasking right now.
Oh, that's okay.
Trying to make sure we hit all the questions.
I can keep going. So the other one is a lack of resources. So the city just literally doesn't have enough money or time to manage this massive portfolio of vacant land, and not just the land that the city owns, but also the land that has been abandoned. There are by absentee owners that no longer live here. And because they're non-responsive, the city has a responsibility as far as public safety goes. And so they still respond to fire and police calls on those lots, which, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, vacant lot calls are the second or third highest 311 report. And, if you're calling the police to vacant lots, that's a lot of money you're spending when you could be saving someone's life or doing something else. And so I think that it's really this lack of resources that snowballs into spending more resources to fix an absence of resources. So really it's a misallocation of resources that we think, with being thought through and really taking an equitable, data-driven, community-forward approach, we can actually turn this into an asset and a wealth-building asset instead of a drag on our tax rolls. And then the last point I pointed out is a lot of folks are stuck in just kind of this, oh, well, this is just how it is mindset. And so not just like having more money or changing the way that developers think and managing and regulating development, it's all about attitude change as well. We need folks to know that like this shouldn't be normal. This is not normal, even though everyone's come to expect it, that like, oh, that's just how Homewood looks. No, these are choices that have been made. There were people making choices that resulted in this long-term divestment, and we are people who can make choices to change that. And so I think that overcoming that mental barrier is a big part of why we do these types of talks and why we really want folks to hear from people like Khadijah about their story, because if you can connect this to an actual human being with feelings and needs and emotions, you might not just think twice about, oh, that's just how that neighborhood looks. Cool. Next question. Yeah.
The next question is, what is the relationship between land banks in both the city and other places in Allegheny County and Grounded's Vacant Lot program? That's an excellent question. I also want to thank, someone just said they wanted to lift up the Parkdale Land Trust in Toronto. They're doing really great work around affordable housing and environmental justice work. So I'm just going to tackle the land bank question because it's a big question mark for us right now. If you're familiar, the city of Pittsburgh does have a land bank. However, that legislation was passed about 5 years ago, and it has yet to transact a single property. It has just been stalled. They haven't been able to really get moving on its approach and strategy, as well as be resourced in a way that can allow it to be functional. You can, I guess, do your own research about what the motivation behind its lack of movement is. Some of the things I'll just say that like Grounded is paying attention to is that, we do believe land banks are an important part of the solution. We really need to see these properties being transferred into individuals' hands. The city does not want to be a landlord, or so they say, although they are the most powerful landlord. They don't have the capacity to maintain and care for all these properties, and so we need to be transferring it to those that want to. And in order for that process to happen with the amount of vacancy, we really need that process to be pretty fast. And a land bank has special legal powers where it can transfer properties pretty quickly. Currently, we don't really interact with the Pittsburgh Land Bank, or there's now a Tricog Land Bank, which is doing really awesome work more in like the Mon Valley. And one day we hope that we could use a land bank to do green space projects to protect critical neighborhood sites that should just be preserved as green space into eternity. And so we definitely see a future where we're partnering very closely with the city land bank and the county land bank. But that's just, we're not in that place yet, but it's definitely a part of our vision for the future. And I'll add to, and please others chime in from the team, that we hope that sort of one of the things we'll be like paying attention to this year is how the land bank moves forward. There's just a big announcement that it's being moved into the URA. As long as it remains community driven and community responsive, we are, going to be watching that move. But as that's sort of like, we want to see it functional. If that's what it takes to get it functional, we're going to be paying attention. But we just need it to remain community focused and transparent. Please feel free to expand on any of that.
No, well said. And I don't know, I just think it's another way that we know you can have collective action and create policy that removes barriers. And because we have a land bank legislation. And so I think it's always just a great example about what's possible, and that if something's not working, we can create something to change it, or we can actually do things to fix it. even though it takes a lot of social and political capital. And so one of the things Grounded is working on by building out our advocacy network is constructing that social capital that we need you all to help us push forward and think these policy changes and holding our institutional accountable to deliver environmental justice in this way.
Mm-hmm. And as we sort of mentioned in the beginning, it's this very complex challenge, but other cities are starting to chip away at it. It's kind of like Pittsburgh. It feels like we just haven't taken that first big step, and it's going to be a really, really big step. We need a lot of funding, a lot of capacity, a lot of political will to make it happen, but it can, and it's definitely working in other places. The example about Toronto, Baltimore is doing some really inspiring things with vacant lots. Citywide, they're allocating millions of dollars to clean up their own properties, and they're seeing the positive effects of that investment. And there's, like we mentioned, there's so many great things happening here as well, but not at the scale that we really need it. So the next question is about the slides. We will definitely share those. If you sign up for our advocacy network in our newsletter, we can be sure to link those. We'll also link them eventually on that advocacy webpage. I'm not sure if we'll get access to everyone's emails in our session, so I'm just going to cover our bases. And then we'll throw this up at the very end. If you follow us on social media, everything is at Grounded Pgh. We'll make sure to kind of let folks know where these resources can be found. And we just appreciate your support and interest in continuing the conversation with us. Any resources for those outside of Pittsburgh or Allegheny County? That's a really good question.
So while the reason why we're currently, we say our footprint is Pittsburgh, Allegheny County, is because there's just so much to do right here. However, we do have a program called Design to Do, which is our fee-for-service arm that does look for opportunities to reach beyond our current footprint in a way that allows us to reinvest in our current footprint. So we think it's a pretty awesome model. And it provides technical assistance to municipalities, development corporations, small community-based organizations who have an idea, who want to do something, but just need a roadmap. And I think Grounded, that's what we're really good at, is helping people figure out what's the step-by-step we're going to do to tackle this land use intervention. And so that's another thing we will be having. If you sign up for the advocacy network, we'll let you know when the Design to Do services page launches, as in here's how you can reach out and which services are available. But that program is led by our director of placemaking and her name, design and placemaking. Her name is Rebecca Mizikar, and she is our in-house landscape architect, helping us to bring clarity and beauty to all of these spaces. So there's definitely a way to get involved. It's just more on an ad hoc basis. But eventually, hopefully, Grounded's coming to a community near you and the world one day, if not soon. So yeah. And then let's see. Are there any key changes to laws you support in order to bring this vision to a reality? Go ahead, Emma.
I was just going to say, watching the land bank really closely this year is going to be big for us and for our partner organizations and for everyone in this space of dealing with vacant abandoned properties. And it, it's beyond that too. Affordable housing, green stormwater infrastructure, like all these things intersect with vacant properties. And so kind of watching how that moves and becomes a functional land bank will be really important to us. We're going to be watching, if that is funded to a level that will make it necessary to be functional, as well as we're going to be, so these aren't necessarily laws, like more like initiatives, but there's a plan underway right now to develop a comprehensive city plan, forging PGH. We're going to be paying attention to that. And it is our hope, like we mentioned, that we can engage with the city in order to do an inventory of vacant properties. There's not really a lot of clear data right now about the condition and status of vacant land. And so we'd really love to be a part of that conversation and updating our data sets so that we can make better decisions about properties, particularly when it comes to those that are like ripe for transfer to residents.
Yeah, and then definitely another law or ordinance is our city budget. Like the city budget is a policy document, and so we're always advocating for the city to increase the amount of funds they allocate for vacant land management, and that's in the capital budget every year. Correct, Anna? If I'm not mistaken. And so that's something every year we try to advocate for and try to get folks to advocate for before that's passed, because a budget is really just a list of a city or entity's priorities. And if that's essentially where you can get the answer of do you care about something or not? And so we're always trying to have that tangible impact and increase over time. We know, again, that's one of the barriers for our city is this lack of resources. We have a depleted and decreasing population, which affects tax base. But at the same time, we think there's room for incremental improvements. Even though I feel it's an environmental justice emergency, and like we all should be like knowing what to do. I'm gonna do this tangent. I'm gonna take it. So when you are in a building and you hear a fire alarm, everybody knows what to do, right? Like there's a way we respond to that. And so I think that when we classify vacant land justice and many other environmental justice issues as environmental justice emergencies, it changes I think it should change the nature of reaction to folks. And so it's really about making sure our city knows how to respond to environmental justice emergency, like they know how to respond to a fire or a car break-in or car theft or something like that. And so I think beyond just policy and laws, again, changing attitudes and really changing mindsets and viewpoints of gatekeepers and leaders about how this issue actually affects people's lives, as well as can definitely improve the city's bottom line over time. Cool. Let's see. Do we have another question? Let's see.
Trying to keep up. If you're in the chat, people are sharing more examples of inspiring models. I just want to encourage folks to keep doing that. Please lift up anything that you know that's going on either in your own neighborhood, maybe it's your own project, or just initiatives that you've been following. We love to learn more about that and just make sure it's on our radar.
I do see one from Caitlin. How does our approach to land owned by companies and individuals differ from land owned by the city? That's a really, really great question. There's also a really great, on lotstolove.org, there is a really great kind of roadmap as far as like what the life of vacant lot and what you can do. And sometimes it's easier to reclaim a vacant lot that is privately owned, because if you can get in front of that person, which isn't always easy, you can usually appeal to their humanity about needing to address this issue, and or they'll just say, do whatever you want. But at the same time, it's about long-term responsibility and investment in community in which you own land and which you purport to be a part of. And that's having that conversation is really difficult sometimes, especially because Grounded believes in community space and community control of space as a form of ownership and enfranchisement. And so we are walking this fine line between private land ownership, which is one of the most protected rights we have as Americans, is what you can do on private land, and should be also another note of historical disenfranchisement, because of like, if you can control what you can do on your own land and you have a significant population that doesn't own land and they happen to be of a certain color, it's just reflective of our nation's history of just systems just changing for the time, but really giving the same outcomes. And so trying to have community ownership, either collectively or individually, as it relates to privately owned land, is all about partnership building, access to information, and sometimes just a really long legal process of trying to clear a title, because like Khadijah said, they could be dead and we don't know. And that process of title clearing is so expensive that it's oftentimes a barrier for an individual to go through, but it's usually really, really easy for like a corporation to do, because they've got a whole office of people who do that, which is the danger of a poor vacant land recycling protocol and policy, because you're inviting more inequities as far as access to deal with the various hurdles, particularly legal hurdles that come up when you're dealing with privately owned land. Anyone on our team want to add anything there? No? Okay. Let's see. These. Okay.
Someone else.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Specifically, what are some things that you would like session attendees to do next? So we have a slide on some action steps people could take that I'll throw up at the very end. I linked a blog post that really summarizes a lot of the points made here today. It's called Black Neighborhoods Matter. If you can share and promote that work, also give us feedback and comment. We love to hear for people who just want to talk about these issues with us. You can also follow all of our work on social media. You can sign up to be an advocate, and then you would get action alerts when things like the budget season comes around and we are advocating for increased funding for vacant land. We're also looking at a couple, I didn't mention this earlier, we're part of a coalition that's looking at some lead remediation practices. A lot of urban vacant land has toxic levels of lead. And so we're going to be working to change city code so that we can deal with that in a way that is safest for everyone. And that it becomes a priority. If you're able to, please make a financial contribution, and then talk to your elected officials. You know, this is something that everyone acknowledges is a huge problem, but I think we need to have a collective urgency across all neighborhoods that this is something we want to tackle as a city, because it affects everyone. The bottom line is that it is a drain on our tax base. Vacant innovative properties cost the city millions of dollars every year in response costs. And so it's really a benefit to all that we invest in these properties. And I'm just going to keep rolling, because there was a question about, are there any council members or policymakers in Pittsburgh that are a champion for this work, or some way that you've been able to make headway in terms of advocacy? The answer is yes. I think everyone understands and is sympathetic to this issue. But as Ariane mentioned, there's a lot of apathy of like, this is just the status quo and it's, you know, just the way it is, and we're not really sure what to do with it. And so I think everyone that we've dealt with has really acknowledged that. But I think in terms of like strategy moving forward, that's where we've seen the gridlock. And it's something that we'll be talking a lot. It is a year of a mayoral election. And so we're going to be asking everyone that's running for mayor to talk about their strategy to deal with this issue. You know, we want to get going into this next administration, whoever it is, making sure that this is a top priority issue. I will say, in terms of other city council members, you know, we've been really effective in working with some of the staff members of Councilman O'Connor's office, Councilperson Strasburger, who else? Councilman Bobby Wilson as like the land use committee chair. His staff has been really knowledgeable in helping us navigate this. And so, you know, it's actually the staffers of those council people who know how urgent this is, because they're the ones who have to field all the calls from constituents saying like, come cut this lot, or like, what's happening with this vacant lot? And so it's definitely not a surprise to any of them, but it's like that needing to continue to put pressure on all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a really great way to put it. And another role Grounded tries to play as like that vacant lot resource provider is making sure decision makers can have access to up-to-date data about the issue, about the scale of the issue, about the role of their district in the portfolio of vacant land. And so that again is ties into our goal to really have a ground truthing and understanding of our portfolio. You can't build something in the dark, and we want to make sure that we're doing right by these communities who, one, need investment, and that it's done in a way that is authentic and inclusive. Yeah, we have lots of hope. I think there's always hope. There has to be, right? These are people's lives. And so we need to make sure that we're continuing to seek accountability and support. And one way to do that is by providing information and making it accessible. And so that's something we do really well.
I wanted to mention too, when you're on our advocacy page, which is groundedpgh.org/advocacy, you can find our Talkin' Lots podcast series, and that is, I'll plug Jaw, interviews with residents who are dealing with vacant land, doing creative and beautiful things in these spaces. We have our first episodes available on that website. That's another great thing you could share just to start having conversations, bringing urgency to these issues and attention, highlighting the great work that is happening.
And I just put a link to that. Let's see. Did we hit all the questions?
I think so.
We did. I'm trying to think of anything else I want to nerd out about for a second.
So many good questions.
Well, I guess I could just talk.
I have one more
ahead.
thing. You said at the beginning that a quarter of the land in Pittsburgh, is it a quarter is vacant, or a quarter is vacant or owned by the city? I just want, if I'm ever going to repeat it, to get the statistic correct.
Yeah, that's a great question. So nearly a quarter of Pittsburgh's land is vacant. Not all owned by the city, but it's definitely the city's responsibility. If you wanted a stat, and I can chat this on how many properties the city owns outright, I should put this number in the forefront. The city is directly responsible for 12,500 properties. So they have control, ownership, legal access of those 12,500. And that's the number where we get $28 per lot per year, is because there's roughly every year it fluctuates 250,000, 350,000 allocated to maintenance of those properties. So divide that by the 12,500 properties, it comes out to about $20 to $28 per property.
And I think is that about a third of the full city inventory, roughly?
Yeah, a little bit more actually.
A little bit more than a third
of vacant properties within the city's footprint.
Yeah, that they own.
Yeah, but I mean, like and this is where it's super tricky, and the city has to deal with private property too. Like they have to respond to the things that pop up on those as well. We just sort of talk about in terms of focusing on what we already own and control, because you got to sort of like get that in like underhand first. If we have control of it, we should be taking care of it. And we should also be dealing with our private properties, but we got to clean up our own side first.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Please feel free to keep chatting questions or comments. Like Beth, you're welcome to chat.
Yeah, if people need to kind of head out to join their next sessions, I just want to say thank you so much. I can't believe this turnout. It's been an honor to speak at this summit. And I want to thank to our wonderful hosts, Rob and Elise, who kind of helped us get all set up at the beginning. They were behind the scenes, but do really, really important work to help make this run smoothly. So thank you both so much.
I want to shout out the rest of our Grounded team. You can go look at us on About Us. We have an amazing group of folks that bring their passion and their expertise in widely diverse backgrounds and fields to this work every day. And without them, this wouldn't be possible, as well as all of our ambassadors and stewards across the county, over 80, almost 100 of them out there we've worked with in an intense capacity over the past 13 years. And again, you know, those are the folks actually out there doing the work, sharing their stories so that we can understand what, you know, change looks like, and then helping us keep ourselves and our communities accountable for, you know, the delivery of this environmental justice. I think environmental justice isn't like an action. I think it's a noun. It's something to be delivered. And so we will know when it's done, when it's there. And I think while we still have a long way to go, like this is definitely a part of making that progress. So really appreciate your time and thanks for being here. Yeah. What now?
Should we have more music?
I know, right? We could, question for Khadijah. Let's see, from Audrey. Question for Khadijah, how have you noticed your community change after all the work you've done with community care?
Like I said, it feels brighter. It feels like there's more hope because there's so much despair. And my wish is that everyone can pick up a piece of trash today, because it just makes everything so much more beautiful.
That's a really great way to put it. And another thing, call to action, I think, is to do some internal reflection about your own expectations of the quality of green space that you deserve, and think about whether or not that applies to everyone, and how you might make that happen, because it's really hard sometimes to connect with this issue if you don't live in a community that's divested. And my personal reason for getting into this work was because I grew up in a community that wasn't taken care of, and yet I knew there were places where that wasn't the case. And that's confusing. It's like, why can't everyone wants to live somewhere nice? And like, what is the reason why some people do and some people don't, is really kind of why I do this work and how I got into planning and land use. But I do encourage everyone to kind of like take a second when you walk out of your house and look around and feel like, is this standard of green space and beauty and connection with nature acceptable for me? And then find a way to make that a reality for other people in our city and county. Yeah. Any other questions? Shout outs? I see you, Chris. Chris Worley is Anna's awesome, amazing
That's
partner.
me.
Oh, that's you? Oh.
I had it pulled up on a different computer.
And
I think my mom is here though.
Shout outs to anyone who's not from Pittsburgh and you're joining. We really appreciate that. We'd really love to hear your perspective on about any notes you have. Shoot us a message about how it relates to your city. Always trying to make connections across space. Let's see. Thank you for all the appreciations. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please remember to fill out the survey. It's very important if we want to have better summits in the future. Yeah. I mean, Ja, if you want, you can close us out with some music. And this is really your show. How would you like to spend the last 5 minutes?
Did we see Aaron's question? I just saw that. Hearing more about community work events, how did we get volunteers, and what feedback do they hear about the neighborhood there? Did we address that one?
No.
Okay, I'll do that real fast. So you can sign up when you go to our contact us page. There's a drop down list in terms of like what you want to engage in, and you can sign up to be a volunteer, and you would get we promise we don't, it sounds like we're going to bombard you with a lot of emails. We don't. We do like a monthly digest of upcoming work days. So you can join one near you or in your own neighborhood to do some green space maintenance work or green space build work. And then, so we do try to do though we recruit as much volunteers from locally, because it's our experience that if there's more community ownership and investment in these spaces, they just do better long term. We really want to feel like the community has control and ownership over these properties, and also like, it's their job to envision what the space should be. And what do they hear about the neighborhoods there? So we do provide sort of an introduction to our work and share the how a project got started. Usually Grounded is approached to do a vacant lot project site, and so we respond to that, and then whenever we bring volunteers in, we'll give them all that context, share more about what unique need that site is filling, and how they can engage with it long term. I covered everything.
Yeah, I'm just pasting in the contact us. Well,
Okay. Yeah.
team.
Our work
And
is
then-
definitely possible by volunteers only, though. So we need volunteers always.
Oh, and any type of skill type, really. I'm an apartment kid. I should probably not. I'm not allowed to water plants. I do it wrong. Something's like, up with that. So I think there's room for everyone to play in this issue. If you like to be hands-on and in the community, if you like to do outreach, we're thinking about having some plant parents for the upcoming season to start seedlings for us. So you'll get all that information if you either sign up on our contact us page and or the advocacy network. Cool.
All right.
I think that's it.
Yeah, that's all we have, and hope to continue conversations with many of you moving forward. Bye.
Awesome. Bye. Have a great
Thanks,
day,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.